All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're basically becoming historical detectives. We're going to tackle one of the greatest cold cases in all of history, the strange and total disappearance of an entire Roman legion.
And I mean, we're not talking about a small scouting party here. A full-strength Roman legion, that's about 5,000 professional, battle-hardened soldiers. That's a whole army in and of itself.
And this particular legion, the Legio IX Hispana, well, they just vanished. They literally marched right off the pages of history, leaving behind this incredible silence that has had historians scratching their heads for centuries.
So that's the big question, isn't it? That's what we're here to figure out. How does a massive, formidable military unit, the pride of Rome, just disappear without anyone bothering to write down what happened? Let's dig in.
Okay, so to crack any mystery, you've got to start with the evidence. Let's just lay out the facts. Who exactly was the Ninth Legion, and what is the absolute last thing we know for sure about where they were?
You know, it's so important to understand, this wasn't some rookie unit. The Ninth Hispanic Legion, they had a long, famous, and, let's say, difficult past. They fought with Caesar in the Gallic Wars, they had a reputation for being incredibly tough, but also maybe a little bit unlucky, kind of prone to finding trouble.
And their time in Britain was especially brutal. I mean, they were part of the first invasion force, then they got absolutely mauled during Boudica's famous revolt, lost most of their infantry, they had to be rebuilt, and were eventually stationed up north in what we now call York. And it's right there, in the year 108 AD, that the trail goes cold. Think about that. The last trace we have is an inscription found on a fortress gateway in York. It dedicates the gate's construction to the emperor. By the Ninth Legion, after that date, zilch, nothing. They drop off the military payrolls, they're gone from the legion lists, they vanish from all official records. It's like they walked into the mist and just never came back. Now you know, nature abhors a vacuum, and so does history. With absolutely no facts to explain what happened, a really powerful and kind of romantic myth started to form to fill that silence. And this legend didn't just appear overnight, it was built in stages. It all started with a theory from a hugely respected historian, Theodore Mommsen. He just suggested they were probably wiped out by tribes up north. Then, that idea was made immortal in this brilliant novel, The Eagle of the Ninth, which painted this incredible picture of a heroic last stand in Scotland. And of course, decades later, Hollywood got a hold of the story and cemented that bloody massacre in all of our minds. And this just perfectly shows the power of a good story. Rosemary Sutcliff's words captured the whole romantic tragedy of it, a lost legion, a valiant last stand. It was a story people really, really wanted to believe. So this is the heart of the conflict, right here. The legend gives us this dramatic, epic massacre up in Scotland. But the last piece of actual physical evidence we have, well, it just shows them calmly building a gate in York years earlier.
For decades, that legend was pretty much treated as fact. But then archaeology came along and threw a massive wrench into the whole story, with a discovery from way outside of Britain.
The big plot twist came from a place nobody expected, Nijmegen, in what is now the Netherlands. Archaeologists there started finding Roman military gear, roof tiles with stamps, pendants, even an altar, and they all clearly belonged to the Ninth Legion. Now those stamped tiles are key because they're basically official property of tax. It's definitive proof the Ninth was operating there.
And here is the real kicker. The stuff they found in the Netherlands, it was dated to a period after their last confirmed sighting in Britain. This was a total bombshell. It meant that at least part of the Legion, maybe the whole thing, had left Britain and was working on the continent. They couldn't have all died in Scotland.
So just like that, the myth was shattered. This brand new evidence forced historians to ask a totally new question. The mystery wasn't just if they were destroyed in Britain anymore, but what was their real fate?
So, with the whole Scotland massacre theory pretty much debunked, where does that leave us? Let's take a look at the modern theories that have popped up based on the actual evidence.
You see, the biggest problem with all the dramatic, exciting theories is the total lack of physical proof. I mean, whether you think they were destroyed in Britain or later in Judea or even over in Parthia, there is simply no archaeological evidence. No battlefield, no mass graves, no inscriptions. For Roman legions who left their mark pretty much everywhere, that kind of silence is, well, it's deafening.
And this leads most modern historians to a far less dramatic conclusion, but one that is much more plausible.
The Ninth Legion probably wasn't destroyed in some blaze of glory. It's much more likely that, after years of tough fighting, the weakened unit was just transferred out of Britain and its remaining soldiers were slowly absorbed into other legions. It wasn't destroyed, it was dissolved. It faded away through paperwork.
So that leaves us with one last big question. Why, after all this evidence, does the myth of the Lost Legion in Scotland still have such a powerful grip on our imagination?
It really just comes down to this, doesn't it? We crave a story of heroes and tragedy, of a lost eagle standard and a noble sacrifice. The likely truth? It's a story of gradual decline, troop reassignments, and missing paperwork. It's just not as good a movie.
And that's really the ultimate takeaway from the whole mystery of the Ninth. It tells us so much about how we create history. Sometimes the most enduring stories aren't the ones that are true, but the ones we feel we need to be true. The Ninth Legion didn't get an epic ending, they just stopped existing in the records. And maybe the real mystery is why we find that reality so very unsatisfying.